A very comfortable win indeed for Portugal. 24 shots in total, an easy 3 points to kick off their World Cup qualifying. Nedum joins us as well, but as always with Portugal, there is one big talking point, and that is Cristiano Ronaldo. Craig Burley. Yes, it is. Because when Roberto Martinez took over, you said this is the perfect opportunity to move Ronaldo to one side.
Who said that?
You did.
Yes, I stand by that.
That's what my question was. Were you wrong about that, given what he's done?
No, what has he done?
He scored goals, a lot of them, all the time.
He had some success in the Nations League.
Yes.
That replaces the international friendlies. It's not really a big deal. He scores a lot of these goals and at this stage in his career against the Armenias and the Liechtensteins and other teams like that. The question remains, and I don't want to go over all ground in my head again, the question remains, when he's been at the top level against the bigger teams in the European Championships and the World Cups, he's either been anonymous or he's been dragged off. Now, that remains the million-dollar question. Well, it's not a million-dollar question for me. I've seen what the answer is going to be. Is that by the time the World Cup comes along in North America here in, 10 months' time, give or take, the weaker teams in the groups, he'll be okay, but it's when it gets to these bigger games in the knockout stages.
So you mentioned the Nations League, obviously against Spain. He scored against Spain. Eventually they'd win the penalty shootout. Spain, arguably the best team in the world.
But look, Roberto Martinez and other coaches that are managing the more elite nations, am I supposed to go down this list here?
No, the list is just there just to prove the point that he has scored goals against bigger teams than Armenia. And when you look at the fact he scored against Germany, he scored against Spain, obviously. He didn't score against Scotland. That was the one anomaly.
There still remains the question whether it's the right thing to do to go into a World Cup with a very talented Portuguese team. I'm not going to go on a rant about Cristiano Ronaldo because he is an amazing professional and an unbelievable football player. And to have the desire to still do it for a club in Saudi Arabia and for your country at this stage of his career, after everything that he's achieved in the game, is incredible. Him and Messi, I don't think, and you know this, I don't think we'll ever see the like again as a twosome. 50 goals a year, give or take, assists, Champions League, league titles, carrying teams on their shoulders, you name it. They've done it, he's done it. The big question remains with this talented Portuguese side under Roberto Martinez. Is he going to be flagging at the World Cup and they're carrying him, or can he somehow muster up some more performances? If you look back at the last Euros and the last World Cup, the answer is they're carrying him. So whether he does it or not in the Nations League and whether he does it or not in these qualifiers against weaker opposition is neither here nor there. Recent history is telling you that he struggled in the major competitions, and has Roberto Martinez, A, got the stomach to make the change if need be, and B, maybe got the personnel to make the change. But fair play, João Felix is scoring, that's telling you all you need to know, because he's had his struggles. So I admire Cristiano Ronaldo for, not just for the talent, the supreme talent that he has and what he's achieved in the game, but the fact that he's still out there when he could easily be sat just living the life, in some villa near the ocean or whatever it is he does. But he's out there trying to churn out results. I'll give him credit for that. But I think in my mind there's a massive question mark about how they go into the World Cup with him as the number 9.
Nedum?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard that perspective that Craig's had before, but then I think we could also apply that to a few other strikers as well. And I think some of those attributes or things which sort of get held against players, scoring in those big games and so on, scoring goals against like smaller opposition and the like. That almost sounds a bit to me like the same way we discussed, say, maybe a Harry Kane. Somebody that we see at club level dominate, scores so many goals. And then for England, he's staying out there extra long this time against Andorra because, let's get more goals. It's a great finisher. But then we saw in the Euros last year that there were times when England went at their best because he didn't seem to be able to match up to, say, the energetic high press that, say, the manager wanted at that time. So there are flaws in terms of his game, but then people still know the value that he has because he's such a great finisher. And you get the belief that with England, if he's out there, they believe they can have those moments. And he had those moments last year. So I think in some ways, I kind of go against that take on Ronaldo just that little bit, just because he just scores so many goals. And then from the other perspective, well, if he drops out, then who comes in? Because as we saw today, it's like a Gonzalo Ramos. Would you think that Gonzalo Ramos is going to be the right man to be leading Portugal towards potentially winning the World Cup? Or is there still some little bit of magic left in Ronaldo to be able to almost finish his career at the highest point? Because as we can see, he's playing in Saudi Arabia, he's played in other places, but the real joy he has comes from playing for that Portugal national side. And if he loses that, then I think we lose him as a player.
I should sort of go back a little bit here in something that I'm talking about. For me, for any striker or any front player, goals of course are important because they love the headlines. They love to be the person, the man of the moment, whatever it is. And I understand that. But looking at the Euros in 2024 and looking at the World Cup in 2022, which was when the World Cup was, wasn't it?
Yeah, late.
Yeah. It's not just the goals for me. I don't have an issue if Ronaldo is a little bit lean on the goal scoring stakes, but the performances are good and he is producing for others. But let's be honest about it. If you watched both of those competitions in 24 and 22, it wasn't just the lack of the goal threat for Portugal, it was performance. His performance level dipped in those bigger games, such to an extent where he was taken off at least once or twice and should have been taken off a couple of other games where Roberto Martinez did not do that. So, just to sort of turn the corner a little bit, it's not just, he hasn't scored 4 goals, he's done. I don't have an issue if he only pops up with 1 or 2, but the rest of his game is great because he's bringing people into play, he's playing passes, he's doing, but he's not, because his actual link-up play isn't where it used to be because of age. He can't run the channels anymore in behind because of age. So when you can't do those things, and I take Nedum's point, the backups might not be any better. That might just be the case. But when you can't do those things that were once part of your tool set, all those things, then the only other thing to look at is scoring goals. And then when that doesn't happen, you then sit back and say, right, well, what's the alternative? And that's the only place I'm coming from, having seen 2022 and 2024 with the lack of goal threat, is what else is he going to bring to the team? And I'm afraid when you're, 39, 40, whatever it is, the answer is, to be truthful, not a lot.
Is that why the conversation around Cristiano Ronaldo in the World Cup is different to Lionel Messi in the World Cup?
Because he's still doing things that's affecting the game, even if he's not scoring, even if he's not beating 6 or 7 players, leaving them on the backside and scoring this magnificent goal. Cristiano Ronaldo, scissor kicks, all that sort of stuff, top corner. When they're not doing that, you have to have something else. And Messi has, and it's slightly different because he at times had you could suggest, certainly when you looked at France and Argentina were less talented, but were more built to support Messi. All these, the Molinas, the Rodrigo de Pauls, Enzo Fernandez, they had a bunch of guys who were good players, but they were grafters, they were water carriers. Don't mean it to be disrespectful, but that they were in there to help balance out what his skill set for somebody in their mid-30s. And I thought they did that Saudi Arabia part in the first game when it went wrong. I thought they did that pretty well. The French were more talented, but the Argentinian side was more built as a unit around Lionel Messi. And he's still able to do stuff on the ball that affects the game. So you're not looking so much at, Messi never scored. Whereas for me, you're looking at a number 9 in Cristiano Ronaldo is, if he's not scoring goals, what else is he doing? So I think that picture is slightly murkier. And also the fact, we can sit here and have this discussion about Ronaldo at his age being still the man or not. What we can't argue about is 4 years ago, is Lionel Messi helped take Argentina to the promised land. A land that, the Diego Maradonas of this world were once taking Argentina. This discussion we're not having about Ronaldo. They beat France back in the day when Santos was the manager, in Paris in a not very good game. I think Ronaldo may have been injured in that game, came off. So he hasn't taken them to that place that Lionel Messi has taken them in. I just think there's a big question, and I think it is going to be one of the most interesting watches out of many at the World Cup is Cristiano Ronaldo's performances for Portugal, not just his goal threat. I'll be looking at his performances to see if that's going to help link up the team and make Portugal better.
It's interesting, Nedum, we talk about fixture congestion a lot, and of course the Club World Cup has added to that conversation. Given, as we said during those highlights, Cristiano Ronaldo, João Cancelo, João Felix, all playing in the Saudi League, does that help them going into the World Cup, given they're not playing in more competitive matches week in, week out?
That is a great question, and I think it's one of those where you can spin it however you like, because that same conversation was being had, say, maybe a year, 2 years ago, saying that people can't play for like their national side because the football's not competitive enough in Saudi Arabia. But as we're seeing, like, there are some managers of nations around the world who are still consistently picking those players and they're performing for their national side. Yes, it is different. That style of football is different, but you could argue that styles of football, depending on where your club side are, can be very different to your national side anyway. So yeah, from a fixture congestion standpoint, maybe it's beneficial in some ways. Maybe they're not playing at the same level they were previously. And I've got to say, like, for as much as we love club football, like, for these players, playing for the national side is everything. You know, that's a big driver as why Ronaldo's still playing now, while Messi's still playing now. And they'll find ways to make sure that they're in their best possible shape to be able to do that. And as I'm sure everyone would agree, like, playing in the World Cup, for many people, if not everyone, is the peak. It's the absolute peak. So whichever league you need to play in to give yourself a chance to do that, you'll make sure that you are ready to be available for your national side and playing whatever style it needs. So yes, I think the question about, say, player fatigue and so on, maybe some players who are based in Europe might struggle a little bit coming off the back of a long season last year, you know, the Club World Cup this summer. And I think if you make it to the Champions League, I believe like the World Cup starts maybe like 12 days later. That's going to be tough. But I don't think you'll find a player anywhere around the world that isn't going to be desperate to be there for that World Cup next summer.
Who's the lad that, his name escapes me here, Nedum, and I know you're going to have this because he's a former Man City player. Who's the centre-half? He's French, really, but he plays for Spain, and he moved to Saudi Arabia. What's his name again?
Laporte?
Laporte.
Yeah, you could have asked me.
Laporte, yeah.
No, I couldn't ask you because you'd have given me that Glacial look again. Going, he's put me in it. I don't have the answer.
Oh, he surprised people, didn't he? And Kante did as well.
Well, that's where I was going with it. Is he performed really well for Spain at the Euros, N'Golo Kante as well. But Laporte performed really well after playing a considerable amount of time in Saudi Arabia. So I don't really think it's a major drama. You get to your country and, you know, I've played lots of national games with players who are not playing at all and playing for the reserves at their clubs because they are out of contract or they're out of favour. That's a different scenario. And I've seen the struggles of some players trying to go from... And you think, you turn up when you're playing in the reserves, for example, and you're not in the first team at your Premier League club or wherever it is, and you say, yeah, I'm okay. I'm still playing twice a week and I'm getting game time. And then you get out there on the big stage and it's 100 miles an hour and you think, it's just not. Whereas, at least playing in Saudi Arabia, there is it's a competitive league, and so they should be fine. That's less of an issue for Ronaldo than age, if we're being honest about it. And I know people who love Ronaldo, and I love Ronaldo. I know people who watch this think it's some sort of, you know, being down on him. It's just an analysis of watching the 22 and the 24 competitions and taking into consideration his age. And he can bang these goals in all he wants. Honestly, he can do that all he wants. It's when you get amongst the big cheeses at the big tournaments, that's really when it matters. And you can't, it's very difficult to defy age, as you well know, and I know.
Yes.
So
Mother Nature, Father Time,
Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it. But again, I give him so much credit for wanting to do it, because I mean, he must be creeping up somewhere close to 150 to 200 caps, which is unbelievable. Because most of us lot, Stevie, me, I don't know, don't want to speak for Shaq and him, but most of us are like, I'm not going to bother this international game. I'm not going to play in a friendly. He just pitches up time and time again. It's incredible. Yeah.